Jason Lambert.
This is the pre-meeting of the Mobile City Council, Tuesday, May the 30th. We have approval of minutes from May 23rd.
It's good.
Appeals, we have requests for the noise ordinance on June the 9th through the 16th from 7 p.m. until 10 p.m. on McLean Avenue. July 7th, 6 p.m. until 9 p.m. on Moffett Road. And June the 3rd, 1 p.m. until 3 p.m. in Medal of Honor Park.
Are you good, Corey?
Looking at those dates, because I see some of them running on weekdays. Let me see. Yeah, we good.
Okay.
Public hearings today is the public hearing to rezone property located at 650 Michigan Avenue from R1, R3, and I1 to I1.
Ms. Carroll, you good?
No, I may hold this over a week. I'll let you know. They can't hold a public hearing over that.
Okay.
Presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. Gary Thomas, Parks and Recreation Department, will introduce interns and recognize staff assisting with the program. Katie Herndon, concerns about moving houses in a historic district. Pastor Valenia Green, concerns in the community about sewer and drainage not working properly. Kathy Odom, opposed to drag queen events with children present at city-sponsored events. And Timothy Hollis, what will be done about inactive boards and committees.
Mr. Carroll, know that I think this had hit the news a couple of days ago about the historic houses and stuff.
Were you aware of that?
Of course not.
Where
Con-
are they in the process?
I have no idea. The process, I guess, started Monday night of last week. A stop work order was issued then. It's placed on the house, I guess, early Tuesday morning or late Monday night. I saw it Tuesday morning when I went by. The contractor has since stopped working. But if any of you guys know Falver, y'all kind of know the history with Falver and their process with the city. I was told that the organization donated these properties to another person or individual or organization, which they have not named. I understand that that person hired the contractor to start the process to move the building or the buildings or the homes. That process, as y'all know, was started without a permit or without a C of A. So I was told last week that they started that process to obtain a permit and a C of A. All I can say is that I think that the ARB meets on either the 5th or the 7th of June, if I've got my dates right. But however, it's I should say personal knowledge of the process that your application to obtain a C of A has to be in 30 days prior to the next ARB meeting. So this could last for a while depending on what the process is. So I really won't know where we are in the process until we get an update today or tomorrow. So, but that's basically how it works.
They just have to stop work until the ARB meets. But, in thinking about the ARB and the little I know about what's going on here, is that part of what the ARB would then adjudicate or approve or deny, since these are in the historic area?
The certificate of appropriateness is issued by the MHDC. Let me get these acronyms right. The what do we call it in the city now? The Historic Development Department. They issue the COA, but they're reviewed depending on scope and background for demolition or relocation by the
Relocation is part
Right,
of the whole.
by the ARB. There's a process outlined within the statute that talks about demolition of a structure and also relocation of a structure that gives a certain guidelines that must be approved in order to do that. So if the group or individuals obtain or go through that process correctly and it's deemed eligible, then that's one thing. But if it's not deemed eligible, then that's another. So that's up to the process to
All right, so we're just
determine, you know. So,
waiting on them.
so in this
Process to
case, you know, we just have to have faith in the process and the rules that we have in place that govern these types of actions.
Another question, with the administration, does the city, we don't have or sponsor no type of drag queen events, do we?
So what the city sponsors is Pride Month. June is Pride Month. So we have Art Walk. So that short answer is no, we're not sponsoring drag queens. But drag queens will be present more than likely. And the city's sponsored Pride Month for the last 3 years at least, I think. And so no city employees, no city payments, no contracts, anything of that sort. But Pride Month is June, and it will be during Art Walk.
Okay, okay.
Mr. President,
Mr. Ronald,
I guess my question would be why does the city sponsor Pride Month?
Say again?
Why does the city sponsor Pride Month?
So the city's sponsoring Art Walk. Art Walk is Pride Month. Okay. So that's what we have. So the short answer is, as a government entity, what we typically do is we have Art Walk, right? And Art Walk is Pride Month, or June is Pride Month. And so that's what we've historically done and historically had is Art Walk. And then of course Pride Month is in June. And so the two collaborate. So is there some official function where we are pushing a particular non-governmental agenda? No. But the government is open to anyone. And so that's what we have.
I don't necessarily have an objection to anyone's sexual orientation or sexuality or anything, but I just would like to caution, everyone, our government, and everyone, promoting sexuality, in our community. I mean, I just think that's a slippery slope that maybe we shouldn't be involved with.
And there are a number of people, I think, who agree and disagree. But I'll tell you this. So Pride Month is not something that the city has made official, right? It is just June is Pride Month, and we have Art Walk during June, just like any other month during the season.
yes.
And
Just a couple of questions. You go ahead, Mr.
Sure.
Woods, and I'll have
Sure.
mine.
And so I'll tell you this. So if you talk about an acknowledgement of any of the different events that we have, you're not looking at any one in a particular different manner than you're looking at in another. So for instance, you look at the different events that we acknowledge. Juneteenth, you look at Women's History Month, you look at Hispanic appreciation. Look at all those different things we acknowledge. So what we sponsor is Art Walk.
And the two just happen to be on the same.
Well, it's going to it will be full collaboration is what you'll likely see. We'll be sponsoring the same Art Walk on a regular basis, but Roadmobile and all those things will take place. Just happens to be a bigger acknowledgement during June, which is Pride Month, than you would normally see during any other month.
What does when you use the word sponsor, what does that mean?
It's a good question, Mr. Daves. So sponsor means that we're actually promoting, pushing out, and taking on the actual activity where the city is doing it. What we're doing is we're sponsoring Art Walk, right? Pushing out the actual event, right? And then you have a particular community at any given month that comes in and collaborates with us. That's not sponsoring. That's acknowledgement. What we're sponsoring is Art Walk. We do acknowledge Pride Month.
Well, I really don't see a Pride Month as I don't see the connection between Pride Month and sexuality. Pride Month is just an opportunity for I don't know exactly how to say it, but for
Alternative lifestyles.
people who engage in alternative lifestyles to be proud about themselves. I don't see it as involving sexuality at all.
More than a fair point.
Mr. Gregory,
Uh,
Mr. Carroll?
I'm with Joel on this. I think it's only one of y'all that are still left here from that nice year of mine, Gina. I've even gone as far as to be the grand marshal in the Pride Parade. I think that was, can't remember the year, but it was a few years back. They're citizens in the city just like anybody else. So we have to support everybody. And when we say that we're city councilmen, we're not selective on who we support or how we support the city, but we're supporting individuals within the city that make the city go. So that's where I am. I say whatever we do, we do.
All right, thank you, Mr. Woods. Madam Clerk?
Ordinance is held over. 64024, rezone property at the north side of Government Street from B1 and B2 to B2. 64025, rezone property located at 908 Kendrick Drive from R1 to B3. 88026, authorized sale of city-owned property located at 63 South Royal Street. 88027, authorized sale of city-owned property located at 720 Museum Drive. CIP resolutions held over.
Hang on a second. Does anybody have any more details on that property on Michigan Avenue, 650? Yeah. Yeah, one that's the subject of public hearing. Is it inside Brooklyn? Is it the Alabama Power site at the corner of Michigan Avenue and the railroad tracks? No, look, can we find out before 10:30? Alabama Power. Okay, so let's figure it out before 10. I'll figure it out before 10:30.
CIP resolutions held over. 21597, authorized contract with Kimley Horn and Associates for engineering services for traffic signal upgrades along University Boulevard and O'Shea Road. Resolutions held over. 01569, authorized agreement between the City of Mobile, the Mobile County Commission, and Airbus Americas, Inc.
Mr. President,
Mr. Reynolds?
Mr. Bonner could come up and there's been several changes or amendments that we'll need to offer today. If Britton, if you'd be so kind to run through those briefly with us.
As discussed in the last meeting, this is what we call Project Ramp, which was the ramping up of the Airbus operations at Brooklyn. It's specifically the ramp up of the A320 line, which at the end of this project will add another 1,000 employees to the site and get their rate up to rate 20 per month when you combine the 320s and the 220 aircraft. The total CapEx involved is $850 million. The new jobs, as I said, are 1,000 new jobs. The average wage is $62,500. This will put their baseline employees on site up over 2,400. It'll put their total employees on site, if you count their integrated service providers, up over 2,600 employees. It will put their final total CapEx will be over $2 billion at this point once this project is fully implemented. As you saw at the last presentation, when we presented the original agreement, it tracks the basic terms that we have developed over the past several years for Airbus, going back to the original agreement in 2012, and then with the A220 agreement in 2019. However, in this agreement, we added additional provisions beginning on page 6 of the draft that you have, which is in section 3, the company's commitments, representations, and warranties. Specifically going in to this negotiation, and again, this has taken probably over the last 18 months to get to this point. Y'all have probably been out to the site now for at least 2 or 3 announcements, all centered around this project, which has been going forward since last year, actually exactly a year ago when the project was announced. It's taken us this long to get to the finals on the project agreement. Majority of that was based on their negotiations with the state and some of the state incentives as well. But turning back to our specific provisions, we focused on two things going into this agreement. The first was heightening the contracting requirements and the tracking requirements to ensure that Airbus was contracting with local vendors and with local subcontractors. In the agreement, those provisions are referenced in Section 3E, which lays out the parameters to the Mobile First Initiative, which was developed with the Chamber, in which Airbus was one of the first companies to sign on and agree to. They've already started implementing those policies. They're already being reported through the Chamber. I think if David were here or any of his staff, they could give you the updated statistics on what those numbers are, the number of meetings they had, and success they're having there. The second piece of this that we focused on was their hiring practices to ensure that they're hiring as many Mobilians as they can get eligible to be hired. And so out of the $10 million that's set forth in this incentive, $2.5 million was specifically set aside to develop a training and recruiting program specific for Mobile County residents, current residents, to ensure that they have the ability to become qualified to be hired by Airbus. Airbus, like all other employees in the region and across the country, really are struggling with meeting hiring needs. And what this program does is ensure that we have a program developed specifically for Mobile County residents, either to train them initially, once graduated from high school or coming out of college, or retraining individuals so that they are able to get a job if they want one at Airbus. And those provisions are set out in Section 3G little I and 2 little I, if you'd like to look at those. The other program, which we have negotiated with them for the last few weeks, really has been one that came out of the discussions and items that the council has raised when this agreement first went on the agenda, which is incentivizing employees, incentivizing Airbus to not only hire the maximum number of eligible employees that they can that live in Mobile, but also to have the employees working at Airbus reside in Mobile. As you know, the statistics provided by Airbus indicate that 60% of their total workforce lives in Mobile County. 30% approximately of their workforce lives in Baldwin County, and the other 10% of their workforce is spread out among the surrounding counties. So what we have proposed in the latest agreement, which you have seen, which was sent over last week, and Airbus has agreed to, is to implement what we're calling a second prong of the Mobile First Initiative, focused on incentivizing new hires for Airbus and relocating current employees of Airbus, an additional incentive to purchase housing in Mobile. The program will be developed in conjunction with the company and the Mobile Area Chamber of Commerce as a second phase of the Mobile First Initiative. Right now, we have some parameters that we have in place from concept, which will be finalized as they finish developing the program with the chamber. One of the first steps in that process will be the chamber's already started, I believe, meeting with its realtor partners to figure out what incentive really incentivizes someone to locate in Mobile. They're modeling this. My understanding is after some programs that they have seen in Wichita and some other locations. But it will be, as envisioned, it will be a down payment assistance or some similar type assistance program to encourage new employees and employees moving into the market or relocating current Airbus employees, an additional incentive to purchase property and reside in Mobile. So that is the other item that was included in this agreement, and that is in Section 3H. Finally, the other item that was added to this agreement is in Section 3R, and that's the annual reporting requirement, where Airbus will be required to report annually on the success of the efforts as it relates to the Mobile First Initiative. That includes the Mobile First Initiative as it currently is established regarding contractors, local vendors, as well as this new program, which is going to be implemented in terms of the success rate of how many employees are taking advantage of this incentive program. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Council? Mr. Carroll?
Brent, can you refresh my memory on the allocations given to this project by both the city and the county?
The city and the county for this project agreement are $10 million apiece.
Mhm.
10 million from the city, 10 million from the county, 2.5 million from the city going to the workforce initiative for Mobile County residents, and 2.5 million from Mobile County going to that same initiative. So a total of 5 million out of the combined 20 million is going into the workforce training program for Mobile County residents.
But to live, you said $10 million on the incentive, all right, but in $2.5 million going towards workforce.
Correct.
There's no way to guarantee or put a parameter on that $2.5 million coming from within the city. Because if both the city and the county are doing equal share, can't the city get equal share for individuals that live inside the city limits? Because in essence, the equation says $5 million for those that live in the county. It doesn't say $2.5 million for those that live in the city.
That is correct. As it is worded, we are setting up a program for all Mobile County residents. It is focused, as you know, the initial training programs really are focused on bringing the high school students out. And
I agree, but our portion of that doesn't anchor participation within our city limits. It gives our portion of that 2.5 the opportunity to go outside our boundaries. So is there a way to tighten that up?
well, quite frankly, I'm not sure how, because the county's putting in their 2.5 and their county residents are also, if you're a city resident, you're also a county resident.
I understand.
And this is for developing the program in conjunction with South AIDT, the 2-year college programs, et cetera. I'm not sure how we can make that distinction such that it would be meaningful in a way that can be tracked.
Simple
Unless you're trying
address.
to tie it to the number of people in the city signing up versus the number of people in the county signing up. I'm not sure how we can accomplish
Simple
that.
address tracking.
Simple address tracking, correct, but the goal of the program is to get more people to sign up and enroll into the programs. So they're developing programs to go out and target the city and the county, wherever the residents are, most of them in the city, to come into this program. So if the program is working, the emphasis then falls to the individual who's going to sign up and participate. That would be a back-end calculation that would have to be done after we see how successful it is and how many people have signed up.
Well, in essence, the back end, that's just a simple integral, is what you're telling me, but the back end calculation
So would you want the city money only going for city residents and the county money only going for county residents, or would you want the county money going for county and city residents?
we have I'm simply saying this, we have a constant detachment when it comes to city sponsored big ticket items, where sometimes our money goes out into the county. It's an unintended consequence, but it's happening quite a bit. So I would like to have a way that anchors our funding to some of our high school kids that are living inside the city. This does two things. One, it keeps our kids at home, and two, it incentivizes new growth inside the city limit. It gives them a reason to live and build and renovate inside the city, but at the same time, it gives them an even bigger reason to stay at home. So that keeps us from running out to the county, or it incentivizes us to stay within the city, and it also incentivizes new growth at the same time. So is there a way to tighten that language?
I can make an attempt to tighten the language. I'm not sure how effective it's going to be, because again, this is the seed money going in to set up this program. to develop this program, to go out and target these kids in the schools within the city and without. We will have to go back, I'm assuming, in the discussions with the county as well, since that'd be a fundamental change.
Well, the simple reason why is 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, when we first heard this, I immediately went out to BC Rain and I asked, how many of you kids, actually know about an opportunity? Nobody knew anything. So how can they even want to be, and this is the current opportunity that's going on, how can they even know when they haven't even had a chance to sign up yet? And I'm talking about the one that's going on right now. So how can they even know when they don't know? And that's supposed to be one of the biggest feeder programs we have. So, we need to tighten the language, and we got to find a way to do it a whole lot better. And right now it's very loosely done.
So, observation, and that is that when this started, there wasn't this detailed conversation about tying the money to jobs in the city of Mobile. There's no doubt that everybody on the city council and the mayor's administration, we would like to see the people live in the city of Mobile. But I'm reminded that if you don't have people that are duly qualified in the city of Mobile, and Airbus is spending $1 billion, they've got to start this thing up. Hopefully over a period of time, we will have qualified people to do it. But to think that we're going to, day one, have citizens living in the city of Mobile when we have limited housing stock for people to live, I think is a little bit short-sighted on our part. And the other thing is that one of the best examples I know of hamstringing a city because of a requirement that to be employed in a certain group in the city is New Orleans said that to be a policeman that you had to live in Orleans Parish. And it has cost them dearly. With the inability to hire people. And so the last thing we want to do is constrain Airbus from their growth because, this would probably be closer to what's the number, 800 million?
850. It's going to be over $1 billion.
$1 billion is what's going on. And, it's incumbent upon us to continue to partner with Airbus. We can express to them our desire for this, for their outreach. But what we've already done has never been done before in any agreement that we've had. And so we've made a huge step forward in trying to get this, trying to satisfy the desire of the council. But if you try to tighten it down anymore, I think it's not going to be enforceable. And so what message is that sending to every other supplier, that wants to come in with Airbus? Is that, yes, we would like to be close to Airbus, but, maybe we need to be located somewhere else because the city of Mobile is difficult to deal with.
We are difficult to deal with. Again, the $2.5 million and the way this is set up specifically says training. And it doesn't say going to find, so it is training
No,
people.
it's implement programs to specifically target residents in Mobile County in recruiting and training efforts to help ensure the employment profile at Brooklyn campus is reflective of the local community. So it is recruiting and training.
Well, and when you're recruiting and you don't have someone trained and you find that individual, whether he or she is in a high school or somewhere else, they still have to be trained. So the end result is training for the job that they take on. So we're spending $2.5 million to find someone and train them. So in essence, we're training. So we're spending money again, just like we do. And I hate to use this analogy. Sometimes we have policemen that we train because we're the best in this area. Once we get them trained and they spend a little bit of time here, they're going somewhere else. There's no incentive to really anchor it down.
Well,
So
aren't they going somewhere else to find another job though? Here, their job, they're training for Airbus.
Britain, that's
and
why I
there's
said
not
I hated
another-
to use that
yeah,
analogy.
there's not another
Right. But in essence,
in this hemisphere.
we're training someone with city funds to leave the city. So
No,
with the
we're very
possibility,
specific in this language.
with the
we're-
possibility of leaving the city because it says county. It does not say the city. And that's simply all I'm saying. The other thing is to blame it on housing stock. That's kind of, throwing a rock in a pond and starting a ripple effect. If we're going to increase the housing stock, then we got to have people that definitely want to live in the city to force the increasing of housing stock so that they find a place here. So when people looking for places to go inside the city, that incentivizes the developers, hey, we've got to build places inside the city because they're not leaving us because they're within the boundary. So that's just simply said. In Orleans Parish, after Katrina, they lost 30% of their population, 30%. So, I mean, and they're in Houston, Dallas, Austin, and other places too. And I'm not pushing it or not saying no to you, but we need to find a way when we do these deals to have a stronger anchor or hook for people to live within our boundaries.
Well, I will say that this program is a first, and so it is being implemented as a first program like this. And they have taken at least one working group of the city school systems, of the county school system, of the two-year colleges, South, the workforce training groups. You know, they've gone on two trips. I know they went to Wichita once, and I believe they went to one other one to look at models and best practices, and they're meeting on a regular basis. And they're providing updates on what they're doing and who they're meeting with and how. So, I mean, I would think if this is something that you wanted to specifically engage on with them, I'm sure the chamber or others would have a seat for you at the table to, you know, for you to personally verify it on how that's being done.
Yeah, and I guess the reason why I'm here is I keep going back to the very first initiative that I was involved with here. Green is grass, $33.5 million. And we absolutely got the very short end of the stick on that. And TK, we gave them $33.5 million, and we've got, as the city, a very short end of the stick on that deal.
Yeah,
So
I don't think this administration has
right,
done
and
it.
we've made other steps since I've been back, but I would like to see us become stronger as far as having that hook that we get people here when we incentivize the industry to keep people here and to grow people here. But right now, it seems like our language says, okay, we'll train you, but there's nothing to keep you here within the city limits. I'm done with it.
We can't make people live in the city of Mobile. We've got to create a city where people want to live here through what we're doing through Crown Convention, through education, through housing stock, and through quality of life. And so everything that we've been doing in the recent past is trying to work on every single one of those. But until we become a place where people want to live, you're going to have people, because why are people migrating to the West? Because they can find the housing stock, the neighborhoods, the things they want to have. So we're starting that process of trying to fix things inside the city and the downtown area, so that the downtown, midtown, so that they want to live here. And so that's something that we can't, you can't create language to force people to live here. And so I would suggest that what we do, and we've already talked about this, is that separate incentivizing people to live in the city of Mobile from this agreement. Let's create an agreement, and the chamber's already working on it. We're working on it. You know, set aside $1 million to create job opportunities for people that these larger manufacturers that are investing in the city of Mobile, that we're supporting, but that we can incentivize people to live in the city of Mobile to try to give us that boost. That's been done in other areas. We're looking at it right now. But I would suggest that we completely separate the two, and let's go ahead and address this issue with Airbus and get this deal done.
Mr. Daves and Ms. Gregory.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple of things. First thing is that, so it's $2.5 million from the city, $2.5 million from the county. So certainly some of the city's money will go to train people who end up living in the county, but some of the county's money will end up training people who live in the city. And since most of the people who live in the county live in the city, you got to conclude that most of the people that will be trained will be people that live in the city. And even the people who continue to live in the county, most of them will shop in the city. So I really don't see the problem with that. But I want to go back to something the mayor said, which is really, really important. And it goes beyond this particular deal with Airbus and with Airbus really, specifically with Airbus. And I'll start by saying that no one has been more concerned about making sure that the economic development money we spend creates jobs for people who live in the city of Mobile than myself. But the fact of the matter is that here we have a company, Airbus, who, if they do this deal, will have spent $2 billion in CapEx in the city of Mobile and has created thousands of jobs, 60% of which I think you said, Mr. Bronner, are Mobile residents. And secondly, has lifted the profile of Mobile to a world-class position, The name of Mobile is recognized across the world as an aviation center of excellence. There are thousands of cities in the United States of America and across the world who would love to be the host of this facility that Airbus has put here and will continue to operate here. Now, this deal has been in the works for months and months and months and months and months. We do not want to get the reputation out there as a city that is difficult to deal with, as a city that continues to nitpick down the road. Time has come, and the last thing I'll say about this is Britain has pointed out all the things that are new in this agreement that haven't been in prior agreements that will help us create jobs for the citizens of Mobile. The time has come for us to go ahead and approve this agreement.
Ms. Gregory.
I'll just second what Joel just said and add to that the whole idea of putting together a fund to incentivize people to live in Mobile, I think is very important. It's something we've been talking about for years, and we've talked about it to our friends in the realty business, because they, in a lot of ways, are the first people in line to talk with folks who are coming into the city of Mobile or coming into the area for these new jobs. So they really are our first cheerleaders, and working with them to provide information about Mobile, why they should live in Mobile. And if we have a fund to incentivize, whether it's down payment assistance or whatever it winds up being, to actually buy a house or relocate in the city of Mobile, I think really, truly, it's just the icing on that cake that helps bring people to Mobile. The other part of that equation, though, is people who already live in the city of Mobile, whether it's Airbus or one of these other companies, when they have people coming into town and moving into town, they too have to be the frontline cheerleader to, yeah, you want to live in Mobile. So, I mean, it takes all of us to get that message out and change any perceptions or attitudes about why you live in Mobile versus across the bay. And it's more across the bay that I'm worried about, as opposed to going west Mobile or wherever. At least it is in the county of Mobile. And working with the county, of course, as we know, is very important with all of these economic development projects.
Mr. Ross.
I think there's a carrot and a stick approach that could be used when tying it to the project agreement. These sort of incentives that you're talking about, Mr. Carroll, is sort of the stick, requiring it and making it difficult. And I went down I had that same train of thought, and then through discussion realized that, maybe that's not the right path to go down. I'm glad we've got this language in here, but I don't know that I've come to terms with fully understanding where we stand with these incentives. What's the results? We have results of saying we have 60% of the jobs in Mobile, but it kind of stops there. I personally have an interest in knowing more. Salary information, the total amount of, economic increase that's happened since Airbus has been here and they've been given other incentives. So I'm not going to stand in the way of passing this. I feel like, we've gotten a lot done, but in the reporting requirements, as this program is developed with the Chamber of Commerce, I would hope that we would get salary information out of those reporting requirements. Otherwise, we're just saying number of jobs, but we don't know the actual return on those number of jobs. I mean, it could be 70% of the dollars spent in salary are going somewhere else and 30 our way, or it could be something totally different, but I don't know.
Well, the chamber can clearly run, and they do as part of our incentive evaluation piece of this, and specifically for the abatement process they go through, they have to run an economic impact report on every project, and they can do that at any point along the way on these projects. Like this incentive, based on their economic impact modeling, shows that this 10 million being repaid to the city in right at 6 years through the direct economic impact. They have modeled out and can model out what the impact of the total project has been and will be once completed. I mean, just on raw numbers, they'll have approximately 2,500 employees on site when this project is done. 60% of those employees is 1,500 employees at $62,500 a job. That's $94 million a year in salary for residents living in Mobile over the 10-year period of evaluation. That's just under $1 billion in salary being paid to Mobile County residents.
Certainly don't want to sound greedy here,
Yeah.
that $1 billion, in
Well, and if
salary
you're,
data, if there's 2 billion out there,
Right.
wouldn't $1.5 billion be better?
and
So I'd like to understand
Sure.
that in their reporting requirements, when they report their information, that they produce salary data associated with the Mobile First Phase 2.
we clearly can do that.
You might enjoy going.
But it had
over
to come through, that information would have to come from Airbus. I mean, it wouldn't, the chamber doesn't have that.
Right.
But you might want to take some time and go over to the chamber and let them show you their model, how their model works, and so you could, because you're the kind of guy who would really like to look very closely at the nuts and bolts, and they can show you how that modeling works.
I
which-
agree. Modeling is good information, but we've got some historical data, and I've made the request. I haven't gotten it to this point. I'd love to see it, to know what kind of results are we producing with the incentives that have been outlaid to this point.
Mr. Penn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I definitely agree with a lot of my colleagues' statements. I think Mr. Carroll, Councilman Carroll, bring a great point. I don't think we're being difficult. I think we're just trying to make sure we do it right. We have a great opportunity. We're grateful for Airbus being here, but I understand some of his concerns. We want to make sure, even what Councilman Reynolds stated, we want to make sure our investment, we're doing it properly, and we're representing our residents and our community. I said the same thing with our school. I think we talked about the trainings, making sure that our residents have an opportunity to get those scholarship opportunities to be trained, to have an opportunity to also live back in the community and create those incentives. So I do understand his concerns, and I think that it's nothing wrong to have those discussions to try to make sure that we get it down pat so we can move forward. So thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, just procedurally, we'll offer this draft version, or I'll offer it as an amended version. And then there is also an amendment to the resolution. Michael, do you have that? Or
I emailed around.
emailed it to everybody.
Anyone else?
No, just looking at numbers of Al O'Brien in my head versus BC Wright.
One of the things Mr. Ray said, and we're also, I think we all realize this, that must change the image of Mobile. And it will continue to change the image of Mobile. If you think about building 20 airplanes a month, all the executives, they fly in every major airline. If you talk to the South House, how many Airbus-related people are staying here on the Renaissance? And if anything, it's only going to get better. And you're talking about giving this money out over a 5-year period. So when you take the visitors, the business travel, and the world leadership in the aviation industry that's coming to Mobile, you may not be able to quantify this thing down to the T, but it is a huge return on investment for the city of Mobile. I mean, huge return on investment. So I'm grateful for Airbus. I think that we all are. And I understand the council wanted to make sure that we're dotting Ts and crossing I's and crossing Ts. So
Mr. Carroll?
Yeah, I think I can agree with 95% of that without a yield. I think I remember when UI, Gina, and Gina were running around the world chasing Airbus and recruiting them in the early 2000s and through that time. And we finally got them here. We lost the contract and we wound up building planes. So we can all appreciate all of that and we all see the impact that it's driving. But in the end, for me, it's always to make us better as a city. And when we have major industry here that has resources to help make us better, then we'll never get unless we ask. First, we have to ask and put it out there. And I don't know how hard we're asking. So this is a position to say, let's ask a little harder to ensure that those with can help us get even better. Because in the long run, we're trying to make Mobile the best city in the state of Alabama.
Anyone else? Thank you so much.
08598, authorized agreement with AlDOT for transportation, for citywide sidewalk repair and maintenance. 08599, approved purchase order for fuel for various city departments. 08600, approved purchase order to AutoNation Ford Mobile for F-250 truck. 08601, approved purchase order to Sansum equipment for 3 street sweepers. 08602, approved purchase order to Stivers Ford Lincoln. 08603, approved purchase order to Schaefer Plastics North America for plastic garbage carts and assembly distribution. With assembly and distribution. 09604, transfer funds from general fund unassigned balance to events. 21605, authorized contract with TTL to perform professional services for Milan Avenue environmental study. 21606, authorized contract with Tyndall Construction for operable wall covering replacement at the Arthur Outlaw Convention Center. 21607, authorized contract with Night Science Industries for marquee information board replacements at the convention center. 21608, authorized contract with Blue Salvage and Diving for restoration of the historic stream channel of 3 Mile Creek. 21609, authorized contract with Christian Prius Landscape Architecture for Comfort Station prototype design. 21610, authorized change order number 1 with Volker for design and engineering of Brooklyn by the Bay. 21611, authorized contract with Moffitt and Nickel for CEI and the 3 Mile Creek dredging project and NFWF grant closeout. Ordinance is being introduced. 64028 is the rezoning on Michigan Avenue. Consent resolutions being introduced. 03612, appoint Donovan Ballard to the Mobile Tree Commission. 27613 and 614 are authorized and pay for Lisa Lambert to serve as absentee election manager and Mary Ann Merchant for services as election specialist for the 2023 special municipal election. 37615, 616, 617, 618 are recommend approval to the ABC Board for issuance of a retail beer table wine off-premises only license to A&B Food Mart on Spring Hill Avenue for special events, retail liquor license to Bottles Up Mobile Inc., Cooper Riverside Park for issuance of a retail beer, table wine, off-premises only license for Family Dollar, Dolphin Island Parkway, for issuance of a lounge retail liquor Class 2 license to Airport Liquors on Airport Boulevard. 58,619, assessed cost removal of weeds, Weedling Group 1639. 60,620, approve award of special bonus to Administrative Services Employee of the Month. 60, 621, 622, 623, 624, and 625 are determined appropriations to ambitiously Him and Her King Foundation, opportunity for entertainers and performing arts, Tomerville Crichton Community Development Corporation, the Africatown Community Mobilization Project, Mobile Museum of Art serve a public purpose and approve payment. Resolutions being introduced, 01-626, authorized agreement with Derek Hyder to provide racket stringer services for Park and Recreation Department. 08-627, approved purchase order to Cadis for 34 concrete boxes for Traffic Engineering Department. 08-628, approved purchase order to Temple Inc. for connectivity and support plans for school zones beacons for traffic engineering. 08-629, approved purchase order Dana Safety Supply for upfit of 15 non-patrol Chevrolet Tahoe SUVs. 08-630, approved purchase order to Stivers Ford for Ford F-150 Super Crew pickup truck. 08-631, approved purchase order to SHI International for 27 network switches. 09-632, transfer funds for capital project CIP Broad Street improvements to project G Broad PH4.
Well, what is this, Mr. Carroll?
I believe that's moving previously allocated CIP funds to our phase 4 work that's coming up. That's from the agenda.
And it goes, what's the stretch of phase 4?
It's from MLK, from Beauregard to Butcher's Lane.
Oh, okay.
21-633, authorized contract amendment with BFI Waste Services, doing business Republic Services of Mobile for recycling, bin rental, and hauling. 21-634, authorized contract of SPV Associates doing business on Indus for the continued implementation of eBuilder for the capital improvement program. 21-635, authorized contract of Bagby and Russell for security camera system upgrades at the Mobile, Alabama Cruise Terminal. 21-636, authorized contract with Unity Fiber for 36 months of internet service and support. 21-637, authorized contract with Goodwin Mills Kaywood for master plan improvements for the Mobile Civic Center.
Mr. President,
Yeah, Mr. Davis.
I'd like to have some information on this. Have some information on this item.
This is the contract with Populous and GMC. Well, I think 2 or 3, 4 weeks ago, you all approved the movement of the funds from surplus for this. The $3 million is the that you moved a few weeks ago is for the 25 to 30% design for the Civic Center renovation project.
Okay, two questions. Mr. Carroll has raised the issue of saving the expo hall. Is that, I raise it, I'm not necessarily in support of it, but he's raised the issue. And so the question is the expo hall a part of this master plan or not?
It can be. They've the initial look on that is it'll increase the overall cost of the project to do renovation to keep that by about $20 million. So the original estimate that we contracted last year that had the $170 million price tag for the renovation, very loosely, it would be about another $20 million to add that into it to keep that and renovate it. So as they get into this design, the 25% design, it can be looked at as an option, but I think it's a very early decision we need to make if we want to increase the overall cost of the project.
Well, okay.
We've got
So-
that cost. I can get it to you.
So has any modeling been done on the CapEx, the overall CapEx involved, how the capital expenses are to be paid for, and what the revenues will be once the project is finished?
Yeah, on the investment, yes. On the revenues, we don't have the full picture of revenues. Part of that has to do with what operating agreement we have going forward. But we have very good indications based on what we briefed you all before, based on sponsorships, naming, a new management agreement. It'll be drastically better than we've ever had in the past. So we can, and I can get you, I think I went over those specific numbers with the investment piece with Councilman Reynolds about a month ago with finance.
Well, I'd like to see some information on that.
Sure.
I'd like, you know, what, if we look out over the next 10 or 20 years, what are the expenses that the city is going to have, and what are the revenues that are expected to be received as a result of those expenses, and what the net impact on the city is going to be, using not the most optimistic
Sure.
revenue figures, but something that's reasonably attainable. Because I think my recollection is that currently we lose about $2 million a year over there.
On that facility, yes.
Yeah. And so I don't want us to go from -2 to -20 unless there's some good reason to go from -2 to -20.
We don't want to do that either.
So, you know, I'd just like to have some information.
No problem.
Mr. Carroll?
All we can do is wait and see the projections. Like, you know, and I think this is a more detailed master planning based on what we didn't have. I don't know if Gilbert Mills and Kaywood is looking at any of the planning in the rear of it, or if they're just looking at the Civic Center Theater and Expo Hall as
Yeah,
a separate.
that's it. This is really, and the term master plan is really a continuation of what was previously started, because it's the same contract line that we had with Populous. In reality, it's 25 to 30% drawings and for the renovation of those facilities.
Okay, so this is just for the Civic Center proper.
That's right.
And not the entire site.
Correct. Yeah. Now there's, the dome, the theater, and if desired, the expo hall, but
Just everything that's under the dome.
and the theater and potentially, based on what you're saying, the expo hall. But I would tell you there's close integration in the master plan, because they can't do that in a vacuum without knowing the other things that are there. So there is going to be some integration of what they're doing to what the overall master plan is.
Yes, okay, I get it. So
So this is just the master plan for the buildings.
Designed
For the
for the renovation. of the-
buildings that are extant right now.
Correct.
Mr. Reynolds?
Mr. Daves, I have the same exact concern and asked to have a meeting to help me clarify, where's this money going to come from? That's 280 million or whatever it is. It's a lot. Yeah, 270 million to redo this project. Based on my understanding, there's going to be some level of debt associated with this. It's just
No
going to
doubt.
have to happen. But I think us working diligently between now and us taking on debt, if we can decrease the amount of debt that we take on by funding it from other sources, the better off we're going to be as a city going forward. But there is apparently going to be some level of debt service that we'd have to accommodate.
Well, it's not, it's not just.
It's the debt service. It's the maintenance and operations also. So you got the expense associated with servicing the debt. Then you got the expense of maintaining and operating the buildings.
And we
Question.
Yeah. And so just to finish up, so to that point, we plan and will be doing a new management agreement with a management company to help us manage that and have better, not just in terms of what they're putting into the facility, in terms of bookings, et cetera, but also management maintenance of the facility itself.
Question. Jim, I'm pretty sure the city would have done a performer for this site. And if you guys would have done a performer for the site, then it would answer every question that Joel just asked. Could you make that performer accessible to everybody on this council, please?
I'll see what we've got that can hopefully answer that question for you. Yeah.
But as far as the agreement with the management company, if the Civic Center is under construction and renovation, will we have an agreement with the management company at that point? There won't be much to manage at that during the construction, would there be?
Well, currently that management company that we have does more than just the Civic Center. They also do the Sanger and the.
But they wouldn't have anything to do with the Civic Center at that point, would they necessarily?
Likely not. I mean, for the 24 months
It
estimated.
would just be a different contract with them at that point.
Well, the
Because they
18,
wouldn't include the Civic Center.
it could. It's just that we know that they're not going to have any activities there for the 18 to 24 months while it's being renovated.
You're
Like-
talking about he's talking about the dome or the expo? I got lost. My mind went somewhere.
No, I
The
was
the
just
Civic
saying
Center
that-
complex.
Yeah.
What the question was is,
Yeah.
would the management company be doing anything during the construction and that'd still be a management company response, part of that, which in today's situation, they have multiple facilities. But during the construction, obviously there wouldn't be activities at those facilities
What's the timeline?
for,
Start to finish.
the design is anticipated to take about 13 months. This is the 25% design, so it'll probably go through the end of the year. They'll finish the design next summer, start construction after that, and then have a grand reopening no later than January of 27. And that was in the timeline I think I briefed you all.
So the 25%, is that of concept? You're in 25% of concept, or you're in?
Preliminary design documents for the facility, as well as getting more up-to-date as-built on what the facility has. Of course, we have very old design drawings from that in the 60s.
So you're still programming. You actually hadn't started drawing yet.
The programming would be wrapped up in the very early stages. They did some initial programming, if you'll remember, and we briefed you all on that about 6 months ago. Populous did. They did all the programming, kind of showed what the conceptual, that's how we got to where we are today. And we briefed the public on the couple different options. But they'll take that concept design and then the additional program, and there'll be some programming still happening because, again, as we work with the management company and sponsors, there may be some things that change in the design interior and the request of the management company to make that facility more usable.
I'm confused. Are you in concept, SD, DD? Where are you?
Yeah, still concept.
You're in concept.
Yep. And there'll be some design documents being done up to 25%.
All right, thanks.
21638, authorized contract with Vogler for design and engineering of Broad Street Phase 4, Dr. MLK Avenue from Beauregard to Butchers Lane. 25639, accept an easement from the Mobile Infirmary Association to provide construction of the trail for the 3 Mile Creek Greenway Trail, Segment 7. Call for public hearings, 41640, call for public hearing to rezone property at the north side of Government Street, 140 feet east of South Ann Street, and from B1 and B2 to B2, scheduled July 5th. 41641, call for public hearing to assent to the vacation of a portion of an alley adjacent to 2411 Wilson Avenue, scheduled July 5th. Announcements.
So going back to 64024, that will be tabled. The rezoning of the property on the north side of Government Street. Is that right?
Say that one more time, Mr. Davis.
What is it?
So 64024, rezone property at the north side of Government Street.
Yeah, that's been.
That's going to be tabled.
In favor of the new.
Right.
When it's been.
Right.
That's been off.
Thanks.
Anything else from the council? Anything from the administration? We see each other at 10:30.
Yeah, there's a new one, remember, from last week.
resolution.